Hey everybody, happy Monday and welcome to another edition of The Daily here with Greg Lalas. I'm Nick Firchau, happy to be back in the offices at MLSsoccer.com and looking back at the first leg of the conference semifinals this weekend. Greg, give me your overall impression of the soccer we saw this week.
First of all, I'm just very glad that we have power here again. It's nice to be back in the offices. I think that what we saw in the first week of the playoffs is exactly what you'd expect from playoff soccer. It was very tight. Everything was there was a lot of physicalness, especially you looked at that Houston Sporting Kansas City game, very physical game down there. And that notion that one mistake, one little mistake will cost you dearly, as we saw especially in the LA loss to San Jose 1-0.
One mistake or one moment of brilliance. That's really what defined the Houston Dynamo's win over Sporting Kansas City on Sunday night. Let's throw it out to Andrew Wiebe. He's on the ground at BBVA Compass Stadium.
Thanks, guys. Of course, a disappointing night here in Houston for top-seeded Sporting Kansas City. On the other side of things, the Houston Dynamo are rolling once again here in the postseason. Another 2-0 victory against their Eastern Conference rivals. The themes of the day for the Dynamo: solid defense, not allowing Kansas City any openings going forward, and then two opportunistic goals. Adam Moffat with a wonderful strike from distance, and Will Bruin doing what he's done all postseason with a poacher's finish. Of course, Sporting Kansas City, they do not feel like they're out of this thing. They do acknowledge, though, that they have a tough task at hand. They had a few complaints today, one of which the fouls in the midfield. If Houston did not win the ball, they took those Sporting Kansas City players down. More of that can be expected on Wednesday. That game, 9 p.m. on MLS Live. Sporting Kansas City will have to find a way to get 2 goals. Certainly not something they've been able to do over the past 5 games against the Dynamo. That's all we have here in Houston. I'll send you out to the West Coast with Jonah Friedman.
Thanks, Andrew. Well, this game's not going to win much for style points. It certainly wasn't pretty, but as a result, the San Jose Earthquakes are 90 minutes from moving past the LA Galaxy into the Western Conference Finals after a 1-0 win here at the Home Depot Center. Victor Bernardes hitting a free kick in stoppage time. The most improbable result at the end here, where the Galaxy really didn't create all that many chances, and that was the game plan from Frank Yallop, telling us that he made the choice to put Ramiro Corrales in at left midfield to bottle up the Galaxy attack with this wide field here at the Home Depot Center, and it certainly seemed to work. The Galaxy did not have a shot on goal until the 66th minute. And at the end, look what happened. Victor Bernardes, of all people, stepping up and drilling a free kick in second half stoppage time. Galaxy goalkeeper Josh Saunders taking full responsibility for that. He said that goal is my fault, but the Galaxy say they're confident going back up to Buckshaw Stadium next week. It's going to be tough. The San Jose Earthquakes are now 90 minutes from knocking off the defending champs back home at a place where they have not lost in all of the 2012 regular season. Back to you guys in New York.
Thanks, Jonah. Greg, let's look forward at the New York versus DC series, the Eastern Conference semifinals, the second leg Wednesday night back at Red Bull Arena with power out there in Harrison, New Jersey, 8 p.m. Eastern on the NBC Sports Network. Live chat on MLSsoccer.com. A 1-1 draw in the opener for this one. Mistakes on both sides. Yep. What do the Red Bulls have to do to protect that home field advantage now?
Well, let's be honest, they got this home field advantage because of the hurricane and the switch and everything that happened there. But yeah, now they have it. They come back home. I think the thing they have to do is actually attack as much as possible. What I watched from the Red Bulls in the first leg was that they didn't really create too many chances for themselves. They have all of this firepower. They're going up against a back line that is not exactly filled with superstars of defensive caliber, although they looked very good and tight, I will say. Brandon McDonald looked very good for DC United in the first leg. So I think for them, it's just get the ball and attack. Thierry Henry needs to be more active, more involved in the attack in particular. And Tim Cahill as well, who did very little, I thought, out of the midfield for the Red Bulls. On the other side, DC United do exactly what they did in the first leg. Keep it very tight, stay composed. They made the one mistake, obviously Andy Najar getting the red card, not what they wanted. But otherwise, I think they would be fine if they can keep it as composed as that and tight, and then hope for Chris Pontius to pull out a little bit of magic to get them the goal.
So no Andy Najar in this one. And you look at DC United's experience level, I wonder, with their backs against the wall in this second leg, is that going to come into play, considering on the other side of the field, Thierry Henry, Rafa Marquez, Tim Cahill, even Dax McCarty, who's played an MLS Cup final before?
I think experience does matter, and Ben Olsen says it doesn't, but I think it does. In particular, we saw it in the first leg a little bit. Andy Najar, young kid, hasn't played in these really big games like this, and all of a sudden he gets the red card for a silly mistake.
And Bill Hamid too, don't forget.
And Bill Hamid, not a great one. Then again, on the other side, Roy Miller, who's played for World Cup qualifiers for Costa Rica with the own goal on that side, partly because he just has no right foot whatsoever. But I think that when you look at the experience for New York, that's certainly going to help them. On the other side, DC, it's not as if their experience really got in the way in the first leg. I mean, Chris Korb had a terrific game for them, and he's not a guy that's loaded with World Cup experience the way the Red Bulls are. So I think Ben Olsen will have these guys raring to go. Though I will say this, I think it is a very difficult proposition for DC United. I believe that New York will actually get the win in this.
Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on the NBC Sports Network and a live chat on MLSsoccer.com. New York and DC, the second leg of the Eastern Conference semifinals. Well, it wasn't all about the playoffs over the weekend. There's some big news in Montreal where the Impact have parted ways with their head coach, Jesse Marsh, after just one season. This one came as a surprise, unless you were in the know, maybe inside that Montreal Impact locker room where there seems to potentially be a rift between Jesse Marsh and some of the players on that team.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because if you look at what Jesse Marsh did as the head coach of a first-year club, they were a good side. They were not a pushover. This was a team that actually, up until about a month left in the season, were possibly pushing for that final playoff spot in the Eastern Conference. So I think it does come as a surprise to a lot of people. I think that there was some sort of a rift in the locker room. You know, I think this was something that who knows what happened. You had a lot of veteran European players who came in mid-season, whether it was DeVayo, Nesta. I thought that if Nelson Rivas had stayed healthy all season, this team might have actually made the playoffs, and we'd be talking about a very different proposition right now. But you know, it's gonna be interesting to see what comes out now. And where does Montreal turn? What kind of a coach do they want? What kind of a coach can they get that will be successful? Because the last thing that they want to see is that constant churning and turnover that they saw in Toronto FC over the last couple of years.
Yeah, philosophical differences. That's sort of how they put it, which you hear that a lot, but this one was real. They could not agree on how to go forward with this makeup of guys. So Jesse Marsh on the way out. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more on the latest edition of Extra Time Radio. That comes out on Monday with special guest Brad Davis from the Houston Dynamo, talking about that big win over Sporting Kansas City. Catch it on iTunes, Buzzsprout, and Stitcher Radio. That does it for us. Glad to have power. Glad you stayed with us during the hurricane. We'll be back tomorrow on The Daily.